Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Junkyard Digs. I'm going to start this one not in the shop. I'm actually going to start it off here about math number less than 23 months later than when this was actually filmed, for the reason to tell you a couple things. First of all, sorry for not releasing anything in the last like 4 weeks. I've been really busy. It was spring break and we took that time to move into our new home. Junkyard Mook and I have bought a property here in Ames, and it's got some woods in the background. It's beautiful. We absolutely love it. It's a lot of fun. So we've been dealing with that. The second thing is I apologize for both the camera work and the flow of the video you're about to watch today. It's hard to keep that flow linear when you film it over the course of 2 months. Things get messy, so just bear with me there. The final thing before we start today's video is I would like to say happy 92nd birthday to my grandpa, who is at home quarantined right now watching all these. And if you guys could do me a favor, everyone head down to the comments and say happy birthday Grandpa Frank. That would be awesome. It would make his day and it would make my day as well. So without further ado, let's begin. Alright guys, welcome back to the next episode of the LeMans Gambler car build. We have parts. It's not all of them. I still have to pick up rims and tires and 1,000 other boxes, but it's a start. I have been busting away on this floor. I've got most of the driver's side not done. This side sucks because there's way more contours and changes in shape and way less metal to work with over here. Angus, meanwhile, is going to be popping our diff cover off and getting a look to see if our axle is good or junk, which is kind of a big question. And what's your guess? It's been flooded like 1,000 times.
What is it? It's just a 10 bolt, right?
It's a 10 bolt.
Yeah, it's junk.
Okay, so yeah, let's dive back into this. We'll kind of hit the highlights as we go, because we got an entire car to build before you guys get burnt out on watching this. And hopefully we even get a set that thing in there at some point in this episode.
Has that been sitting there this whole time?
Yeah.
I think it's time for new glasses.
Hey, it looks good.
That's obnoxious. There's something inherently wrong with that.
Dude, that's like straight up still good oil. Put it back.
No. Do you know what ratio this axle is?
5W30.
What? No.
No, I'm kidding. No.
I meant gears, Kevin, gears.
I know. There's a little rust, but that looks pretty good.
Not ideal, but it's okay.
I've definitely seen worse. I mean, I think we can clean this out.
It's nice and green.
That's an interesting rust pattern. We must have flung some up there somehow.
There's rust on the...
Yeah, you can see where, yeah, that was up when it was parked. This was the top half.
That is a gigantic pinion gear.
Yeah, it is. Holy crap.
I'm gonna go with the ratio is not ideal.
No. You know stuff about 10 bolts. Is it stamped anywhere?
Sometimes it'll be stamped on the ring gear.
Which means
you'll find a number, like the last 6 numbers are what you'll look at, but it's not the last 2. You'll look at the first 4 to last. There it is, there it is.
Oh, right there. That was easy.
Okay, so Pontiac might be a little different. I'm used to working on Chevrolet axles, but looks like the numbers we're looking for are right at the beginning. It's 41, 16, GM7, 67. That doesn't mean anything. What I think is...
Should be the same, just a GM 10 bolt axle.
Yeah. So my thinking is, instead of having to count all the gears on the ring and the pinion separately, we might be able to just use these numbers, figure out our ratio. If we get it pretty close, it should be a low numerical number, just because of how big that pinion gear is.
Yeah, it's a pretty small ring too. But so, I don't know how you would fit any bigger ring in there.
No, and that's like where the 9-inch Ford comes in. Everybody loves it because it's such a big gear, and
the housing's so large.
The housing's really big, but the gear's really big, so that's why it can handle so much power typically.
Huh.
Just because, you know, leverage and whatnot. But
let's Google those numbers, I guess.
Let's Google the numbers. So my calculator here, my quick calculations, 41 over 16 is getting about 256. to
my
1.
God.
Now, I think we'll go back and recount the gears just to be doubly sure, but I don't doubt this number whatsoever.
Wow, that's aggressive.
It's
It was a 350 auto car, so it's not going to be a performance package whatsoever.
nope.
All right, so while we're waiting for some paint to dry in there before I put the last floorboard in, let's go ahead and break into these boxes we got here from Rock Auto and Summit Racing. Starting off with the disc power master cylinder for a disc front, drum rear. Now I bought this entire conversion kit off Summit Racing. It's about 650 bucks. It comes with the spindles, the master, the brake pads, the rotors, everything you need. Like literally hardware and everything, besides ball joints. So we just went ahead and got this kit. Here's all the hardware. Here's some bent tubes already. Proportioning valve. There's a brake bleeder. There's our dust shields. Brand new calipers with new pads and everything. They look pretty damn beefy. Single pistons. Ah, yep, there's our spindles. New wheel bearings and cotter pins. So if you ask me, 650 bucks is a pretty good deal. Just to redo the front brakes anyway would have been like 300. So honestly, for another 300, 400 bucks, I have now power brakes and discs up front. Usually I don't care and I just run manual drums, but because this car is gonna have a big block and it's gonna have these big tires on it with more leverage that the brakes are gonna have to stop, I thought we should probably upgrade to some power brakes at least. And then the easiest thing to do was to just go to power discs. So there we are. This is like Christmas, but I had to pay for it. A couple ball joints. These are from a Biscayne wagon, so they're big, beefy, big block Biscayne wagon with springs, which I imagine are all the same. But these are going to give us a bit of a stock lift in the back without messing up our pinion angle too much. Hopefully these work. A bit of untested waters, but Vice Grip Garage said do this and that, so I did. I know the ones in there right now are more of a hive shape, but they're also destroyed, so. New fuel sending unit. So these are from a 396 Chevelle SS, big block car. These are front springs. Holy hell! Look at the size of this thing. There's the magnet. Ooh, a double. Oh, like an actual double. We got a SS Monte Carlo and a Toyota, I believe a Land Cruiser or something like that. On the wall. So in here we have our shock absorbers. Now these are for a LeMans. I'm hoping they can extend far enough to still fit our raised suspension. We're gonna find out. If not, we'll just actually spend a couple bucks and get real ones so that we can, you know, jump this thing a little bit. Just a little bit. Fuel cap, U-joints, rear drums, hardware, wheel cylinders. So that's all the parts we got now. I'm picking up tires and rims at the end of the week here. I gotta order 1,000 million other more things, so yay. Spend money. Okay, back to it. By 10.5 BF Goodrich all-terrain KO2s sitting on 15-inch beadlock aero racing rims. I don't need to say any more words. Just visual things. So obviously we need to do our suspension in the rear yet and up front, but we're hoping that this is going to be our actual ride height up here, somewhere around here. So we're gonna put the bigger springs up front, bigger springs in the rear, la-di-da. We have a little bit of clearancing issues here. It's not too bad. Basically you just can't turn the steering wheel, so we'll nip that off. Well, I have this week off as fall break, so I'm gonna dig into this thing, get as much done as I can, and bring you guys along for the ride. Next, I'm going to be replacing this with our full boosted conversion kit. Alright, our dust shield is off. Get this out of the way. We got the steering link off. Something interesting I've been running into since the beginning of this car that I still see is everything is full of these huge rocks. Like the frame was full of rocks if you go back and watch part 1, which is up in the corner now, but everything's full of rocks. Rocks don't float, so I don't know how these got here. Three hours later. Okay, so our ball joints are in, the spring is in, the shock is in, and I'm capping off our sway bar link right now. So you're gonna go there, and you're gonna go there. Grease the wheel bearings, put the disc on, caliper on, and then we're done here. Ready?
Yes.
Today we're putting the 455 into Smokey. We're gonna start getting it all positioned so we can figure out motor mounts and everything else. That worked pretty well. All right, so here's where we're at. We got this thing situated in here. We left the engine mounts, or we took the frame half of the engine mount and put it on the block so that it can move around and do its own thing. We're trying to measure to get everything straight. It looks pretty level. But there's no trans cross member in, it's a floor jack, but it looks like we're gonna have no problem there. We're just trying to get this way.
I almost went that way.
We're trying to get this and this angle sorted out, and then we're gonna trace it onto the metal and weld the mounts on.
Yeah, right now it's sitting a little bit like this. So
I don't know why.
yeah, we're gonna have to figure that one out. I don't know.
You wanna just whisper for the rest of the thing?
Well, I'll tell you what, old son. No, I don't.
What the hell?
You were almost
Whipping.
screwed.
Whip.
All right.
And this. Oh way.
Well, that took way too long.
Yeah.
But there it is.
How long have we been here? 7 hours?
Yeah. In and out, in and out, in and out. But we got the engine level and square and centered and everything's good enough. And we've got the mounts marked.
The tail shaft square with the
Tail
red.
shaft square. Everything's happy. We're just gonna wait for that paint to dry on the motor mounts, pull it back out, weld those mounts in, and then when it comes time to put the engine in, we can put the engine in. Unfortunately for this next section, I've lost an entire folder worth of files. Personally, I blame Junkyard Mook. She probably ate them. Doubly unfortunately, I am unable to recover them, so I'm going to have to give you guys some photos to get you caught up with what happened in the next month. Alright, here we go. The first thing I completed was the floors. I broke out the self-tappers and the hammers and set to work making the bottom of the car look like a porcupine. But there's no more holes anymore. After this was a quick weekend hiatus where I went to one of my last remaining drills and then came back to finish up the brake system. We got the disc brakes finished up front and replaced all the hardware and drums in the rear. Junkyard Mook and I then went shopping for Christmas presents. I came back and we finished up welding in the engine mounts as well as all the self-tappers under the car to keep them secure. At this point we were finally ready to drop the driveline into the car. To celebrate this we decided to hit the bars a little bit that night. Went too hard and I wrote a goat. But hey, that happens. So there you go, that's a month worth of work condensed into only a few seconds. The next thing we need to do is drop the engine in this car for the last time. Alright, there it is. Our bolts are in for our motor mounts. I had to do some clearancing, but she's bolted up front. Now we're going to enlarge the hole and put a center hole in our cross member and hope that lines up. And probably have to build a new one or some crazy stuff anyway, so.
Yay.
Alright, so our engine mount bolts are in. She's tight now, she's not going anywhere. We're gonna go ahead and slap a carb on this and for morale, fire it up for the first time in the car. We're not gonna run it long since there's no cooling system, but just to hear it run in its new home. Because it's been like 2 months since we started and it's been a lot of really arduous labor to get to this point. I wanna hear it make noise. So I'm trying to find top dead center and whatnot, all that good stuff to put our distributor cap back on. And I threw a bore scope down there while I had a spark plug out. And as you can see, there's a lot of crosshatch left on this wall, which is really good. Because that means this is still a healthy motor. It's not glazed at all. So the piston looks happy. Oh, maybe we can tell if it's been bored over. Yes, this has been a rebuild engine. So right there you can kind of see the 030. That means it's been bored 30 thousandths over, which means that this is absolutely a rebuilt engine, which is awesome. So I got a good deal on this sucker. All right,
No fuel, or do you got fuel?
the bowls are full.
Oh, okay. Well,
I don't think we started our bumpers.
does not.
Ready?
Yep.
First start.
We never even did anything with the carburetor. We just threw it on there.
Yeah, it's definitely not the best. All right, well, there it is. The LeMans runs.
That was the first time it was fired in the car.
That's the first time this car's had a running engine since like 1979 or 1984 or something. All right, so that's going to do it for this episode of the Gambler Smoky Build thing. Thank you for Mook, Jaden, Angus, Luke, everyone who's helped out.
Speaking of Luke.
Speaking of Luke, what's he doing over there?
Oh, there it goes. Look at that.
So we'll see you guys next time here in the Junkyard Digs YouTube channel. Check out Mook. She's got some behind the scenes content. Junkyard Mook. Subscribe to everyone. Thunderhead 289, Dylan McCool, Classic Mustang 429, Deboss Garage, Vice Gift Garage,
Breathe.
Junkyard Mook, Cars and Cameras, and Angus Whacker himself. We'll see you guys next time. Luke, what are you doing? What you got?
It's still going without the fire on it.
Oh, that's a little Sterling.
Wow, that thing's humming. Died. There it goes.
Will it fire back up?
That's pretty impressive.
That's really good for the Chinese.
Uh-oh.